Hello, fielders.
We proudly present an informed tour based on the art of taxidermy and its rich history here in the Field Museum. My name is Zachary Hawkeye Hutchinson.
My name is Catherine.
And my name is Guillermo.
Please follow along on your listening devices in combination with the specialty map of the tour we will take. Pause the tour when you hear this noise. Did you pause? Good, but don't until the real one.
What better place to start than the fighting African elephants? Please move to the first location.
The fighting African elephants have become a trademark of the Field Museum. It was created by Carl Akeley, the Field Museum's head taxidermist, and overall artistic vision from 1896 to 1908. Before these elephants, most animals were posed very stiff and lifeless. Akeley had vision in the way that he wanted the poses to be more natural and lifelike, while also portraying the majesty of the animal. In 1889, he created the first habitat diorama at the Milwaukee Public Museum. Akeley and his wife, while on expedition in Africa, shot the elephants. This soon became his biggest project.
The bull on the left is the one Akeley shot, which was actually smaller than the bull his wife shot, so he managed to stretch the skin of his own bull in order to make his bigger.
That goes back to taxidermy's roots. Historically, taxidermy represents strength and a human's power over the wild unknown. In the Victorian era, taxidermy was very popular as a form of decoration. Akeley, however, pushed it past simply sporting mementos to lifelike specimens for education.
Please move to the next location. You are now looking at the ibex diorama. While it sets a scene of their natural habitat, it does not correctly portray their social structures as a species. In the wild, females and young form herds of 10 to 20, but the males either form separate herds or are solitary.
This display is put together in a patriarchal formation because the male is in the middle, and the female is to the side with the young, and the male with smaller horns is put toward the back. Akeley used taxidermy as a sculptural representation of a moment in time, rather than a hunting trophy display.
Although this one pulls the viewer in with a more challenging setup, it is not a fully realistic depiction of the ibex's social structure, but instead a practical synthesis of their different specimen into one display by grouping all of the ibexes into the same herd.
Please turn around and look at the sandbar. As you can see, the diorama is more cinematic or narrative than the previous ibex display, because of the paw prints and hoof prints in the ground around them. This implies that there was a tiger, the main predator of the sandbar, is close by. The female and young have their noses toward the ground, while the male seems to be extremely alert, with one foot up in a paw.
While we move on to the tiger display, enjoy these facts.
Frank Chapman designed the first alcove case with the glass windows and a curved, painted background. This allowed for a more realistic scene. The artist used Renaissance techniques for the curved background, creating a seamless background.
The display is somewhat inaccurate and idealized, since there are two tigers together when they are usually solitary animals. They usually hunt at night as well, but the display is set in daylight.
Please move on to the rhinos.
This display is far more realistic, because the rhinos are not posed in any sort of majestic way. One of them is turned away from the window and half submerged in the water. This shows how rhinos cover themselves in mud in order to cool themselves down and protect themselves from insects. Male rhinos are solitary animals, however. The females and young are the social ones.
Please move on to the snow leopard. The snow leopard can kill animals 3 times their size, but just as easily hunt smaller game, such as birds and hares. A similar narrative is created in this diorama. An interesting notion of the diorama is that the prey, or bird, that lies between the snow leopards was indeed not killed by a snow leopard, but rather hunted by a human for scientific purposes. This is also interesting, as the animals come from two different places, which is against typical protocol. Typically, the scenes painted on the walls of the dioramas are the actual places which the animal was found and killed. Akeley preferred this method, and insisted that an artist would document the area with which to later create the dioramas. Please move on to the sloth bear.
Unlike trophy taxidermy, this display includes the cub, where trophies normally wouldn't. Usually made to be in an attacking pose, these ones are natural. The mother is carrying the young on her back to point out how sloth bears are the only kind of bear that actually do that.
Move to the gua.
This one shows a realistic social dynamic of the herds, where the male and the female stay together, but there is usually just 1 to 2 males and a larger group of females. The plaque next to the scene explains that the gar's grazing habits have been altered because of human interference in cattle grazing. It is moving away from idealized setups and more towards education about conservation of the species. While you move on to the cheetah, here's some fun facts.
Frank Chapman, curator of ornithology, 1908 to 1942, at the American Museum of Natural History, used his exhibits to campaign his conservation initiatives to Theodore Roosevelt. Seeing these dioramas, Roosevelt decided to create the first bird preserve called Pelican Island in Florida in 1903. Seeing these dioramas in a pre-color photography, pre-television, and pre-mass media times made them hugely influential to onlookers of the museums.
The cheetah display shows us the wear and tear of the animals. This display, like many others, can only be entered by removing the glass, so it is rarely opened and tampered with. An estimate would be once every 10 years. If you turn around, you will see the greater kudu. This display is very painterly and majestic. To see something like that in the wild would be rare. This is a stark contrast to the cheetah diorama. Continue on to the Tsavo lions.
In 1898, the British began building the bridge crossing the Tsavo River in East Africa. During this, 2 male lions killed and ate 135 workers. Preventative measures were taken such as fences, bonfires, and watchmen, but Lieutenant Colonel John Henry Patterson had no choice but to shoot them. The lions were kept as trophies, one measuring 9 feet 8 inches from head to tail. When they were sold to the Field Museum in 1924, they came in the form of 2 rugs. The skin was not preserved very well, and damage was noticeable from gunshot wounds. Though some of the original size was lost, Julius Fraser was the taxidermist on staff who restored them and made them into sculptural pieces in the diorama they are today. Bruce Patterson says that though chemical tests they found one lion ate 10 people, the other ate about 24, much less than the reported 135.
Continue on to the zebras. Despite conservation efforts, fading fur colors is common in taxidermy. This is caused by fluorescent light exposure. They use this light regardless because of the cool light it puts on the animals and exposes more detail. As you walk toward the watering hole display, notice that the wild ass has cracks in the hide. This renders the wild ass, along with the zebra, not scientifically accurate.
We are now at the watering hole, our last stop on this guided tour. This display is a perfect example of the museum's need to synthesize their depictions of nature into smaller spaces that idealize their representations of animals, by placing many of the species in closer contact with others than might normally happen in the wild, and making sure to include at least 1 male and female of each species to cover a broad range of representation.
This turns it into more of a Noah's Ark situation than a realistic one, thus making it mostly about aesthetics rather than an accurate scientific display. We hope you enjoyed this tour of the Field Museum's rich history in taxidermy. Not only is it exciting to experience, taxidermy is crucial to education and furthering scientific exploration.